Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Branding on Campus 101. We are excited to have you with us today. Real quick before we begin, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Sara Burden. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Employer Engagement with the Pomerantz Career Center. I've worked here for around 12 years.
And my name is Joanna Halsch, and I'm the Associate Director of Events, also at the Pomerantz Career Center, and I have been here about 4 years, and we're happy to have you here this morning.
Well, before we begin with our presentation, we just wanted to let you know that we made a few assumptions for today. And one of those assumptions is that you have assessed your organization's hiring needs and determined that campus hiring is a part of your recruitment strategy. And we're really excited about that. If you're thinking right now, well, I haven't quite gotten around to doing that, that's okay. That's what we're here for. We can provide you some consulting and assistance on your strategies for the future. So today's session, we're going to be discussing tips for building relationships here at the University of Iowa so that you can hire our top talent. We're going to discuss strategies for building your brands on campus. We're going to talk about techniques. We're going to talk about traditional activities that you can do and maybe a few out-of-the-box ideas and activities as well. A lot of these are going to be low-cost strategies if you're on a budget, which we completely understand. Some of the learning objectives that we have for today are that we're going to review the basics in developing a brand on campus, and hopefully by the end of today, you'll be able to articulate at least 2 new ideas for building relationships here at the University of Iowa. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Joanna.
All right, so we're going to walk through 10 tips that we think are really going to be helpful to you while you're going through your strategy and trying to do some more branding on campuses. Not just to University of Iowa, but you could also use these at other universities as well. So the first one that we suggest is to create an attractive job description. Everything you do on campus really starts with a strong job description because that's what students potentially will see first as they're looking on HireHawk or other job boards trying to find jobs or internships. So students really want to know what skills you're seeking, want to know a lot more about the job description, whether it's full-time, part-time, is it an internship? We'll also want to know the details of the job. How many hours will need to be worked a week? What are the specific responsibilities? Where is the location? How many openings? And what is the pay information? All of that is incredibly important to include when you're putting your job description together. Students will also want to know how to research the organization and how to apply. So make sure you include that information as well. The next tip we have is to develop your campus brand. So as you can see on the board here on your screen, you have Best Buy, Target, Kohl's, and Hy-Vee that we have listed. And now I'm guessing we all know who those retailers are. We recognize their names and logos, but what makes them unique to students? So take a few seconds to think about what makes your organization unique. Most likely, just off the top of your heads, many of you thought about some of the same things, such as maybe it's a great place to work, a Fortune 500 company, great diversity initiatives, competitive pricing, good salary, great work-life balance, maybe it's a family-friendly organization. This just shows that we're not as unique as we think we are, and we have to prove to students your brand and what makes you different, especially if you're an organization that isn't a household retailer or a product or name. So the third tip we have here is to know your facts and then go from there and develop a strategy. So organizations are often develop a tiered strategy on which universities to visit, because as we know, you can't possibly be at every university or school in the country and be successful. You have to think through who you want to visit and why. So if you're looking for information about majors, maybe you have specific skills you're seeking, demographics that work really well in your organization, we can get you that information as long as you give us some advance notice, and we can provide you with information on maybe student numbers in different departments, different student orgs, things along those lines that will really help you develop your strategy and will help you think through what you want to do at the University of Iowa, and you can also apply that to other universities. And this will help you then to determine your budget and all the time you have to devote to a specific school. So the next tip here is to develop your Career Center partnership. So of course, we really want you to work with the Pomerantz Career Center. And the first step in doing that is to have a Recruiting at Iowa call with Sara Burden, who's doing the webinar with me, or Crystal Stockdale, who's the Director of Employer Engagement. We even have the phone number listed there for you. On the call, what my colleagues will be doing with you will brainstorm strategies. What are some things maybe you're doing now? What are some things that you want to try? Also, what are your hiring needs? How many students are you needing? What type of majors are you looking for? Things along those lines. The other thing that Sara and Crystal can help you with will be to know what your competitors are doing on campus. Maybe you're not very familiar with other organizations that are your competitors and what they're doing to recruit on campuses. We can help you know what everyone else is doing and then explore and learn what has worked and what hasn't worked well, because we definitely can help you to make sure that you're using your time usefully and that you're not doing some things that maybe we have had previous experience that haven't worked as well. Ultimately, we just don't want you to skip the Career Center, because we're here as your consultants to make you successful so you can hire more of our students. We also will be sending this webinar PowerPoint out and recording, and we'll include a video that you can see linked on the screen that we will send out in the email afterwards. So I mentioned Sara, Crystal, and myself that we're all part of the Pomerantz Career Center, but we also have some other staff that you'll want to potentially get hooked up and connected with and potentially meet. So this group is called the Employer Team. So Alan Betker, the Senior Director of Corporate and Community Outreach, he is a great person to connect with if you'd love to have someone from our staff come visit your organization. If you want to show off your culture, maybe go through some things with Al, and he would be happy to come visit and kind of work through some consulting techniques as well from our suggestions too. And then I already talked about Crystal Stockdale and Sara Burden. And then Lindsay Adolphs is our Associate Director of Employer Engagement of Internships. And she's a great person to get connected with if you're really wondering about how do I start an internship. Maybe you have an internship and you just think some things are missing. She's a really good person to get connected with to go through that information with you. And then Sherry Reinhart is our Senior Specialist of Web Services. So she's our person we call our HireHawk guru. And if you haven't jumped into HireHawk yet, you will eventually, hopefully. And that is our job board system. And she's really helpful if there's any things you're having troubles with. And then myself, who can coordinate and assist you with anything regarding events. So feel free to reach out to any of us on the team. And our emails are included there, and any of us would love to help you and assist you.
All right, so now I want to talk a little bit more about a strategy, and that's just using HireHawk. HireHawk is at your fingertips, and for a lot of you, you've probably already touched this database a little bit. Maybe you've posted some positions, but definitely use this because it's free. It's right there. It's the number one thing we are going to suggest to all employers. It's your first step into marketing yourself on campus with our students and as well as our alumni. As I mentioned, it's free. It doesn't cost you a thing to post a position on this database. And you can post lots of different types of positions, from internships to full-time to student employment positions that are within 30 miles of campus. Like I said, it's a way to develop your brand. On HireHawk, you can update your profile with things that connect to your social media, like your Facebook or your LinkedIn accounts. You can put your logo up on there. All those types of little things that you do to really create your account and elaborate it really make your brand, because our students utilize HireHawk when they're doing research about you. So the more information they can find, the better. With that said, one of the things that you can do is add your contact information. We get a lot of questions from students. Who's the contact for XYZ company? If you make your contact viewable, those students can reach out to you, they can ask you questions, they can network with you. So it just helps you become visible, even electronically, here on campus. Of course, we've got job postings. Absolutely post a job. Even if you're coming just to the career fair, post a position. Like we said, students use HireHawk to research companies as well as apply for those different positions. In addition to the postings, you can also request access to the resume book. So once you get your very first job posting up there, you can email myself, Sherry, and we're happy to give you access to the resume book. What this means is you have access to nearly 5,000 active students and alumni who are using HireHawk. From there, you could do a targeted search based on keywords, majors, grad dates, and you could reach out to those potential candidates. You could encourage them to come to the career fair and talk to you at your booth. Lots of different strategies that you could utilize with just the resume book within HireHawk. Here I've got a variety of different examples of how you can recruit on campus, and I'm going to go into these in a little bit greater detail as we move forward. But things to be considering: attending our career fairs, which Joe will talk about here shortly, getting involved in our mock interview program, coming to campus and doing your interviews right here, getting involved with classes, such as class presentations, presenting on career topics. As I mentioned, we'll talk about these in greater detail here very soon.
So the first one Sara mentioned was the career fair. So some great career fair tips. And the first one coming up here is this fall, Wednesday, September 27th, 11 to 4. Registration is still open for that. And while we know not everyone can attend the career fair, it can be cost prohibitive, maybe a really small organization, or maybe it's just not in your recruiting practices to need to go to a fair. Here's some great tips, though, that if you are considering for the future, that you could also take into account. Now, the career fairs are held every February and September, and they really do provide you the most exposure to the largest number of students at one time. We typically have around 1,300 students in attendance, and we have around 170 employers also in attendance, recruiting for full-time positions and internships. So before the fair, what we suggest to employers is that they utilize the resume book to drive traffic to your booth. Now, Sara touched on that a little bit. That's within HireHawk, and maybe you can go through the resume book, do some searching based on some different keywords or different majors, things that are important to the candidates you're looking for. You could drive traffic by saying, hey, we're really interested in you, sending an email to those group of students and asking them to stop by your booth. Maybe you have a fun giveaway you want to give them, or let them know that you're really interested in interviewing them the next day. Something along those lines can really help drive traffic to your booth. And speaking of interviews, we also highly suggest scheduling interviews at our office the day after the fair, if your schedule allows, as that can be really helpful, as when you're interviewing or when you're meeting students at the fair, they get really excited to know that they have an interview the next day. And that shows really positively on your organization that you're moving quickly, you're going to be in touch with students, and students really like that. Also, you'll want to really think through your display. And as recruiters, you probably do this already, but we have found that a creative and attractive display is really helpful. You don't need tons of giveaways or super flashy anything, but you can kind of think through and try different things on what looks the best. Also within HireHawk, you can view student RSVPs. Students aren't required to RSVP to the fair, but within HireHawk, they do have that function to do that. And so you can always look through those students that have RSVP'd and utilize it in a similar fashion of the resume book. Maybe look through his RSVP'd and ask them to stop by your booth as well. So during the fair, some things we suggest: appear approachable. That is definitely kind of a 101 type of tip, but we have found that if recruiters are behind their desk or their table and just sifting through their phone and not really interested or looking down, that might turn a student away. So we highly suggest standing either in front of the table or if you're behind the table, making sure you're definitely looking up and appearing friendly. We also suggest engaging with students just passing by. Now, I know we all are hoping that students are the one will just be coming to our table in droves, but that can't always be the case with 170 employers in attendance. it's really extremely competitive for employers to get those students to your table. And some students just don't have time to research all of those organizations on what they want to stop by, or may not have time to stop by all of them. So if you're engaging outside in front of your table, we really think sometimes you can get some great students that, you can just stop them, say, hey, how are you? Or what's your major? And maybe they're not a right fit, but they might also be. So that might help potentially drive traffic to your table too, seeing if a lot of students you're starting to stop, maybe others it will draw interest as well. And then we also suggest utilizing alumni as recruiters. We think this is really helpful, especially if you have a recent young alum, as they can speak on the transition from being a student to an employee at your organization. And that can really help students make decisions on what they think would go really well for them at potentially working at your organization. So attending the fair might not be the best fit for everyone. So we do have some other events that we suggest you check out as well. So here is our 2017 to 2018 spring event schedule. And as you can see, we have the different fairs in there, plus some niche fairs like engineering, actuarial science, physical therapy, education. Those ones are kind of our standards that we've done for a few years now. And if those apply to you, great. You can email me for more information, or some even have registration already open as well. But you can also see there's several networking events in there, and those are free to attend. So we have Exploring Careers in Biosciences, which is a focus on employers interested in any major that might fall within biosciences, like biology, microbiology, chemistry, environmental sciences, anything along those lines. If you're an employer with that fit, it'd be a great event to attend. Networking at Carver, that event is a focus on connecting employers with student athletes, and that also is free to attend. And then Diversity Networking Night is an event in the spring before the job fair, the night before the job fair, and that one focuses on connecting employers with students that are diverse. So different students from our Center for Diversity and Enrichment, potentially veterans, and then students from our disabilities office as well. So that's a great event to attend as well, and also free.
All right, so just one note before we transition here. I forgot to mention earlier that if you do have questions, feel free to enter those questions into the chat box. We'll be happy to answer those towards the end of the presentation today. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about mock interviews, as I alluded to earlier. Our live mock interview program is an opportunity for you to network with students. And I'm sure many of you have heard of this program before, or maybe you've participated in a mock interview program at other campuses. Our mock interview program operates during the academic years of the fall and spring semesters. Typically takes place Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We find those are the best attended days for students as well as employers. It's an opportunity to sit down one-on-one with a student. And not only are you providing them with the opportunity to practice their interview skills, however, you're also getting the opportunity to network with them, learn about them. You're branding your company. This might be an organization that the students never even thought about working for, but they take an interest in you because they did that practice interview with you. These mock interviews are typically right around 45 minutes. Within that 45 minutes, you allot about 10 minutes of feedback. You can give them constructive criticism, offer suggestions on their resume, goes in a lot of different directions. Sometimes students will even ask you questions about what you're looking for from a recruiting standpoint. So it's a great opportunity to get in front of these students. Within these interviews, you're welcome to create and or use your own behavioral-based interview questions. We always suggest the behavioral-based interview questions because they are the toughest. As you know, they're ones that everybody struggles with, whether you're a veteran interviewer or you're a first-time interviewer. So as I mentioned, you can use your own. We also have sample questions on our career guide located on our website that you're welcome to use as well. I mentioned earlier on-campus interviews. We have a fantastic facility with over 22 interview suites right here. In addition to our interview suites, we have a fantastic waiting area for the students. We have an employer lounge for you as well. There's no other way to be right here on campus and so close to the students. So if you're traveling to campus, let's say for the career fair, like Joe mentioned, and you want to stay a day later, that's great. Host your interviews right here on campus. Perhaps you want to come back 2, 3 weeks or a month after the fair. That's okay too. Take advantage of this interview space that's so close in proximity to our students. Some tips for doing on-campus interviews. You want to request your interview rooms early. We already have a lot of requests for fall coming in. We fill up pretty quickly. But if you get your requests for a room to do interviews in early, we can make those accommodations work through you. You can request those rooms right through your HireAHawk account. So again, you don't have to email or call us. You can submit your room request and a date request right through your HireAHawk account. If you choose to do interviews here, you have a couple different options for the types of schedules that you can have. For example, you could have a room-only schedule where you create your schedule, let's say at a career fair, or maybe through a variety of different recruiting events on campus, and you fill that interview schedule and you come here and you give a copy of that schedule to us that day. That's great. You can have what we call an open schedule where students apply through HireAHawk and you don't have limitations to who can apply. Or you could do a pre-select where you could have a set of requirements like majors or GPAs or years in school. And then that whole process is managed right through the HireAHawk database. So what I'm saying here is that we've got a lot of different options for you depending upon what your needs are for your positions or your company. One other thing I highly encourage is if you're going to do an interview on campus, it is beneficial to post those actual positions in HireAHawk, just like coming to the fair. If you're going to go to the fair, put your positions in HireAHawk ahead of time. This gives you much more visibility from the student's perspective because they're using a lot of avenues to really understand who you are. And again, if you put your position in HireAHawk and you manage the schedule through HireAHawk, it just creates some consistency for you as well as the students. All right. So one of the favorite questions we get from employers is, how can I get involved on campus? I already know about those career fairs. What else can I do? Well, here's some ideas for you. Course involvement or any type of involvement. We have a Recruiting at Iowa survey that Joe sends out through HireAHawk each spring. In fact, it just went out not too long ago. We'd encourage you to take a few minutes and complete this survey. What this survey does is gives us an idea of where you're interested in becoming involved. It can also show you what types of opportunities there are to be involved on campus. Some of those activities involve speaking to courses, tabling on campus, getting involved when we have some speaker series, things of that nature. There's a large variety of different things that you can be doing, but complete that survey right away. From there, we can help you get connected with faculty and staff early. You can get an idea of what's coming up on campus. And the other thing we have mentioned here is tabling. Tabling is a great way to get in front of students. It used to be that people did a lot of information sessions, but what we found is tabling actually works just a little bit better. So if you're interested in tabling, you can, when we send this PowerPoint out a little bit later, that link on reserving a space on campus, if you click on that, or if you go to our website, you can actually reserve your space on campus in a variety of different locations, and it will let you know where those locations are available. If you are interested in completing that survey, you can email us at the end of the presentation. We'd be happy to send that to you so that you get that information sent out to us. So thank you for asking that question as well. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about branding here, another route. So making recent hires your marketing team. So perhaps you've hired interns in the past, or you've had some former people in positions. Utilize them. If you've had interns that have come back to campus, make them a brand ambassador. One of the things we've learned is word of mouth makes a difference. If an intern comes back and talks about the great experience that they had working for your organization, that's great. That almost does more than some of the job postings. They're talking to their friends. They're encouraging their friends to talk to you at a career fair, to apply for your positions. Those brand ambassadors may even be able to help you generate ideas for some fun events. In addition, you have your alumni connections. Who were the favorite faculty of the alumni that you've hired from the University of Iowa? What kinds of student organizations were your Iowa alums involved in? What types of events did they find the most helpful? Pick their brains, see where they enjoy getting involved. Oftentimes, they can also help you get connected to some key faculty and staff across campus as well. So now I want to talk a little bit more about how do you connect to student organizations. We have more than 400, probably closer to around the 500 number of student organizations at the University of Iowa. And you're going to find that there are a variety of different types of organizations. Some are more, fun types of organizations that have something to do with a sport that students enjoy getting involved in. Some of the student organizations are more career focused. So like I said, a wide variety. You'll see in the bottom hand of the presentation slide here that we give you a link to OrgSync. OrgSync will provide you with access to almost 400 to 500 student organizations that you can browse through. And there's a variety of ways that you can browse through them. We can also consult with you on what maybe are the best student organizations to connect with based on your hiring needs, your positions, your product, whatever that might be. How do you get involved with student organizations? What types of things can you be doing with them? Commonly are presentations. Now, you may be thinking, oh, I'll go in and give a presentation on the types of jobs I'm looking to fill. When we think about presentations, we actually encourage you to present on professional topics. That's often a better approach to connecting with those student organizations. It's an opportunity to brand yourself, but also share some of your expertise on a particular topic. A lot of these student organizations host their own types of networking events or career fairs. It's a great way to get involved in that. So if there are some specific career fairs that they're hosting, if you take a look at their website, oftentimes they're looking for employers to get involved. Some of these student organizations also bring in employers for panels or roundtables or different events like that. In addition, they're always open to sponsorship. So if you're in that fortunate position where maybe you can offer some financial assistance, that might be another idea in helping with those student organizations. All right. If you don't already, we would also encourage you to develop an internship program. Your interns, current or former, like we said earlier, are some of the best people to brand you, to market you on campus. Now we know not everybody can convert their interns into full-time hires. And even if you can't necessarily hire interns for those full-time positions, they can still be those brand ambassadors. They can still be those campus liaisons. They can help spread the word about the fantastic opportunities that you have later on for full-time positions or other internship opportunities. So take advantage of interns, not only for helping them develop, but helping them spread the word about the fantastic opportunities that are available within your organization. So now, get creative. There's a variety of different ways that you can get creative in terms of branding yourself on campus. And I am always really excited to hear what types of opportunities that employers come with, because together we can oftentimes brainstorm things that might work. So up here, I've got a couple different examples of things that have been done in the past. And you may be looking at these and thinking, well, that doesn't work for me. And that's okay. But we can help you brainstorm ideas that may be a good fit for you and your organization and your individual needs. So for example, John Deere Day. For those of you who may not have heard about that, not only did John Deere come to a job and internship fair or table on campus, but they brought their tractors here on campus. That was great, because who couldn't notice a bright green tractor right there on the walkway? So it caught students' attention, and then they got to have conversations about, what does John Deere do? They don't just build tractors. There's a lot of other things, and there's a lot more jobs than just building the tractors that you could be doing with John Deere. So that's a great example. Another thing that we're seeing more employers participate in or host are what they call sophomore experience days or leadership workshops. So what we know is that it is tough, it's competitive. You want to connect to these students earlier. Sometimes those sophomores or even first year students may not be quite ready to do a full-fledged internship with your organization. But if you host maybe a couple day or a week-long workshop or experience days, you could bring in some of these underclassmen to learn about the types of positions you have at your company, see what it's like to work there. Essentially, they're getting exposed to what you do, what your industry is, and then they're more likely to take a look at your organization later. And it's also an opportunity for you to network with them a little bit ahead of time. Some of our organizations get involved with case competitions. So they really start developing relationships with faculty and staff on campus who may be working with different courses. And in those courses, they want to implement some type of experiential learning opportunity where they get the chance to have their students working on some type of project that is very much like what you would experience in the workplace. So if you really leverage your conversations and your relationship building early with faculty, these case competitions could be something that you get involved in the future as well. And again, these are just a few ideas. We would go on and on with all the other types of ideas that we've come across, but we can sit down and help you brainstorm what really works for you. And you can pick and choose. You can start small and build up from there.
So just to recap here, our top 10 list of branding ideas. So create an attractive job description, develop your campus brand, know your facts and develop a strategy from there, develop your career center partnership, utilize hirehawk.com.
Recruit on campus, as we mentioned, come here. If you can make it here and you're scheduling a time to visit, that's fantastic. Make your recent hires your marketing team. Ask them to spread the word. If they're coming back to campus, they're here already. They can help you out with that. Connect to those student organizations and connect early. Right now is a great time to start reaching out to the student org presidents, VPs of professionalism. They may be working on internships over the summer, but they're already starting to plan for the fall. If you haven't, like I mentioned earlier, develop an internship program. Start small, hire a few interns and build up from there. Again, Lindsay Adolphs, she can help you with that, get you that information that you need. And then get creative. It's okay to brainstorm ideas. It's okay to come up with some wild ideas, and then we can talk about how those may or may not work or how to tweak them. That's where we're here for, to help you out.
So we just gave you a lot of information, and maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm a little overwhelmed. So if you're like wondering what your next steps are, we think you should, if you haven't done so already, schedule your Recruiting at Iowa phone call today. Maybe just get brainstorming with our staff, get some ideas rolling so you know how to proceed, or maybe just run by what you're doing already if you'd like to do it that way, and maybe there's nothing else you need to add right now. Also, Sarah and I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn just to make sure we have a direct link, contact information for you all. And then our emails are here listed once again. We just want to help you hire Hawkeyes. So if there's any questions, please do list those in the chat now, and we will stay on for a couple more minutes here, and we're happy to answer any questions you think of right now.
Yeah, and as she mentioned, if you're more interested in talking with us one-on-one, feel free to email us at our contact information below, and we'll set up a time to chat. We're still taking questions, so feel free to send them in. But thank you for all your kind words that you're submitting through the chat. We really do appreciate it. So one of the questions we just got, and we'll address this to the entire group, is how would you recommend overcoming the "I don't have time to get to campus" response that maybe sales managers give sometimes? And that's a real concern, because as we know, you're not just recruiting at one campus alone. You may be recruiting at 50, who knows? What we would say is maybe start small and build up from there. If you're already coming to the fair, perhaps schedule one additional thing that you're doing here and stay one extra day if you can fit it into your schedule. You can do a lot of different things. Sometimes you can do virtual events too. You can do Skype interviews, lots of different strategies. So depending upon what's holding somebody back or where their major concerns are, we can definitely chat with you about that. But I absolutely suggest maybe starting small and building up from there. If you have one or two successful things you add into your schedule of being involved on campus, that can sometimes help get the ball rolling in that encouragement that upper management need to really encourage you to come back to campus and do a little bit more to get involved. All right, so somebody just asked, can we do a Skype interview section? You're absolutely welcome to do Skype. We are finding with all the new technology that employers are doing a variety of different things. So when you go to request your interview on campus, you have the option of selecting Skype interviews. Students can participate in those Skype interviews from their home, or we do have some actual computers here with Skype capability in our office, and there's some individual interview suites that you're welcome to encourage them to use. If this is something you're interested in, when you go to request your interview schedules or request your rooms here on campus, just let us know that and we'll work with you to get that all set up. And again, we're happy to take additional questions. We're still here as they're coming in. Great. The next question that came in is, when is the next webinar? In just one moment, we have that here.
The next webinar is July 13th at 1 p.m. and it will be focusing on recruiting IT at Iowa. So if you have any interest in that, that will be a great one. It'll be run by Crystal Stockdale, who's the Director of Employer Engagement, and she also is a business advisor, as well as Kelly Delphas, who's Professional Development Director in the College of Engineering. So they both know a lot of information about recruiting IT.
Later in the summer too, we will also have another webinar on using HireHawk specifically. That one will be led by Sherry Reinhardt and myself, Sara Burden.
And if you haven't registered for those, please do so, and then I will send you confirmation information so that you have all the webinar IDs and login information.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up with questions for today. They seem to have slowed down, but like I mentioned earlier, feel free to email us at our contact information below. Our entire employer team is here to help you, assist you. We want you to be successful in recruiting our students, whether you're doing it virtually or here on campus. So we look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully you will have a fantastic Thursday afternoon. Have a great day.